Everybody, it's Kim. I was asked to do some more meals for you on how I stretch my budget and eat well on less money. Well, today it's going to start with something that I normally never get because we don't eat it, and that is this stuffing mix. Well, if you have not seen my video titled Free Thanksgiving Dinner, I'm going to link it below because right now, if you sign up for Ibotta, which I have a link for you, you will get this for free. It's either this brand, this type. It's a great value brand. You can get cornbread, you can get turkey stuffing, chicken stuffing, pork stuffing mix. Depends on what your store has. This is all our store had left here. As you guys might know, I live out in the middle of nowhere. My closest store is about 11 miles from me, and the next closest one to that is almost 50 miles away. So we're kind of in a food desert here. Our prices are much higher than you normally see on a lot of these budget cooking meals. Believe me, I wish I could get their prices, but we can't. So I learned to stretch what I have. It's free, and we're going to figure out how to use it today to make our meal go further. The first thing I'm going to do is, at least one thing, it has a lot of flavor, okay? So there's, at least it's got the flavor in it, and that's not a problem. So I'm going to take my packet here. Sorry you hear me crunching in the background. I probably should have had it open already. And I'm going to take half of this package, about half, and I'm going to put it in this bowl. Now, I might need more later. I can always figure that out. What I'm doing is I'm going to be making sort of like a Salisbury type steak meal. And I need something to make my burger stretch a bit. So I don't want to go too heavy on the crumbs here. So we're going to put just a few back. So that's a little less than half the package, okay? Which is perfect. I can use it for another meal. Like I said, it's already got all the different flavorings in there. It has in there, let's see, what do they put in here? They have onions and salt and yeast and celery and parsley, and there's an onion powder, as well as a bunch of other things we really don't want to talk about. Okay, to this I'm going to add up to a half a cup of water. I want to see how much I want to hydrate these breadcrumbs bit. So that's a half a cup. If it needs more, I'll get more. And we're going to let this sit long enough to get these crumbs, I guess it's cornbread crumbs, to hydrate a bit. They might be a little dry, so it looks like I'm going to add just a little bit more water here. I want to make sure that they're going to get hydrated pretty good. If you have, say, extra milk that you need to get rid of, this is a good place to get rid of it. Even if it's, it's like that day past and it's starting to get sour, instead of throwing it away, this is a perfect place to use it. So if I had to buy this, it's 88 cents. And using about a third of a box for this meal, but it was free. So the other thing I want to talk about in our area, like I said, I'm far away from any grocery stores. I purchase my ground beef in bulk, okay? Now, I looked up Walmart prices because I haven't bought ground beef through them. Obviously, when I go to the store, if I see a tremendous deal and it's less per pound than what I pay, I will snatch it up. Often I can get boneless, skinless turkey breasts are all the time, the Walmart brand, are $1.99 a pound. If they're getting rid of them because they're going to expire in a day or two, they'll go as low as $1.49 or $1.59, and I'll grab a pack at that time because that's the lowest we have in our area. I would love to see a 3-pound pack of turkey for $2. It just doesn't happen up here. But anyway, as far as ground beef goes, I do not get anything fattier than 15% fat. To me, it just doesn't make any sense to have to drain that much fat off my meat. Even if I'm making a burger, I'll add other moisture in there through something else versus, eating all that fat. ground beef, the cheap ground beef in my area is over $3 a pound. To get 15% lean, it's $4.24 to $4.69 a pound. So we don't have cheap beef prices in our area, even though I'm in farm country. So what I do is I call up my local processor, and we have a couple in our area, and I buy my ground beef in 50 pounds at a time. So, you have to think ahead, and you have to save your money ahead. We get it for $2.69 if I'm lucky, average $2.79 a pound. So that saves me, over the normal quote-unquote beef I would get at Walmart, about $2 a pound. So, you just have to think ahead and you have to order it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to let these rehydrate. They're getting there. They're still a little bit firm. I'll let these rehydrate. If you have it, it's a good time now to look in the refrigerator. Do you have any onions that need to get used up? Any little bits of carrots that need to get used up? Leftover rice, leftover mashed potatoes, whatever you have that you need to use up, you can add to this mix. So it's really open to what you have. If you only have, I always save the heels of my bread and I cube them up. There's no flavor in there. They don't have all the little, onions and garlic and all that kind of stuff in there. So I will add, I'll go through my little spice rack and I throw whatever I like into my bread as it's hydrating. What you put in there is going to depend on your flavor profile. So just for a little bit of color, I'm going to add some in flavor, a little bit of paprika. I could add Italian herbs if I was doing this with a, like a dish, a side dish with Italian in it. I'm going to put in some onion powder. I like to bump up the onion flavor. And we're going to add some garlic powder. Don't want to add too much salt at this point because there's quite a bit of salt in this dressing. It has almost 400 milligrams of salt per serving. But I am going to add, this is something I picked up new, Saison Complete Seasoning. I've been trying. It's nice. It adds a little extra flavor. So I'm going to add some of that to my mix. Again, use what you have, what you like. If you like it hot and spicy, add cumin, add chili powder, add cilantro, parsley, whatever you like, add it to this dish. And I'm just going to mix this in. I put it in with the breadcrumbs. It seems to put that flavor throughout the dish. Okay, so I'm going to mix that up really well. And I'm going to open my ground beef, and that's going in there next. Okay, I have clean hand and dirty hand here. The other thing, if you have it, add an egg. Eggs are a good source of protein, but it's also a great binder to bind these kind of things together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this together as well as I can. Oh, I got a little lump of hard frozen burger here. I have to break that up a little bit. I'm going to mix this up really well. You almost want it not soggy wet, but it should be moist. Okay. We'll mix this up. Now, this would be perfect. If you can make this, I'm going to have to get my other hand dirty so I can break this up. If you have ground turkey or ground chicken, unfortunately in my area, it's actually more expensive than the ground beef in general. I should say it's more expensive than the ground beef the way I purchase it. I think the ground turkey is four something a pound up here. If you happen to have ground turkey or ground chicken, if that's cheaper in your area, or you don't eat a lot of beef, you can easily substitute with that. Actually, it could be what I call poor man's Thanksgiving dinner. Make up these patties, and we're going to make some gravy and stuff to go with it, and that way you would have a great dinner and have something that, if you're having dinner company. This actually makes kind of a company dinner, if you want to call it that. So I'm going to mix this up really well. And as you can see, it's still on the moist side. I want those breadcrumbs really moist. And this is kind of something you have to think a little bit ahead of time. If you can do it the night before or at lunchtime, you're better off, because I'm going to mix this. I don't want to squeeze it. I'm just mixing the crumbs in. I don't want it to get like firm and hard, but it needs to be refrigerated for a little while till it firms up. It's pretty loose right now. If I was just making a meatloaf, I could pat that in a pan and it would be fine as a meatloaf, but it's a little soft for what I want to do it with. So I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap. First, I'm going to wash my hands really well. Cover it with plastic wrap. It's going to go in the refrigerator at least an hour. That's why I said if you can do it at lunchtime or the night before, it works out really well. And once it's firmed up, I will be right back. Okay, let me tell you some of the rest of the ingredients that you're going to need. I have here about a 1/4 pound of thinly sliced onion. I don't pay for onions normally because I grow my own, but at my store, a 3-pound bag of onions is $1.64, which equals out to about 54 cents a pound. So a 1/4 pound of that, you're looking at roughly 12 or 13 cents for onions. We love mushrooms, and we eat mushrooms a lot, but they are really, really expensive in my area. A 16-ounce package is $3.54. So I never use less than between 6 and 8 meals of mushrooms. And it's going to depend on what it is. If I'm making a pizza, I take 1 or 2 and I thinly slice them. In this meal, I want to make, I'm not sure if I'm going to use 2 or 3 yet. If I use 2, it's going to cost me about 60 cents. 40 cents. If I use 3, it's going to be about 60 cents. And I won't know until I get them sliced. I'm going to also need some kind of oil. I use olive oil. I don't even own vegetable oil. If you use the cheapest vegetable oil you can get in the store, it's going to be about 4 cents because you need a couple tablespoons. For me, it's about 15 cents. But, I get free onions, so I can make up for it. And then when we make our gravy, we're going to need some butter, a couple tablespoons of butter. I buy butter in bulk when it goes on sale for, last year I picked up butter for 99 cents a pound when I was in the city near my kids at Aldi's. So I bought 20 pounds, and that's lasted me just about a year. If I can get it that cheap, it's only like 5 to 6 cents for a couple tablespoons. My normal buy is $1.99 or less, and I'll buy 10 to 15 pounds. If that's the cost, it's 12 cents per serving. If I paid full price at Walmart for butter, it's about 20 cents. So the other thing you're going to need for this meal is a couple tablespoons of flour. I buy 50 pounds at a time for under $10, so it's a couple of pennies for flour. I'm not really counting that. And some type of broth. I never, ever buy broth. I have no clue what it costs. I always make my own. So what I do is when I clean vegetables, I save all the bits and pieces. I have bags in my freezer that I happen to use my last one. So I mark it stock and soup. I jam this full of all kinds of veggie bits. And once I get a full one, I'll make some broth. I'll save any kind of bones with Thanksgiving coming and the turkey coming. Save those bones. From one turkey, I got a full case of pints. And that's after I made soup first. I'll take that carcass and the neck. I don't cook the neck up. I leave the neck raw because we don't eat it. And I will take that and the giblets. I will boil that with the bones after, once I clean all the meat off the carcass. I will boil that. That becomes my soup. Then I take the bones. I put them in a pan in the oven at 450 degrees until they're kind of a medium brown color, and then I boil the daylights out of those sometimes using my bits and pieces left over, and I make my bone broth. So, save the bones, the pieces of your vegetables, the drippings from, if you roast a chicken, save that juice that comes out in the bottom of the pan. If you make a roast, save that meat juice. That is all flavor that you can use later. You can strain it out if you've got bits in there you don't like, but man, you're throwing that flavor away. I have never paid for broth or meat juices to make my meals, and gravy is so easy to make, and it's such a good way to stretch a meal is by putting something in a gravy and then putting it over rice or noodles or pasta or potatoes. You can make that really stretch. So the next step is I took my meat, and it's still a little bit too loose because I haven't had it for an hour. I made it into patties, and they're currently in the freezer until they firm up a little bit because it'll be easier to handle in the next step. And then I will start cooking up for you. The one thing I wanted to show you is really, when you're paying like an extra $1.50 for mushrooms at a pizzeria, boy, they're making big money on you. Watch what you can do with them. You take them and you slice them up pretty thin. We love mushrooms. My brother is very, very picky. He doesn't eat any kind of green vegetable. I don't know why. We grew up with them, but he doesn't eat beans or peas or broccoli or anything like that. So mushrooms, they're very good for you. They're good for your thyroid. They go in just about every meal I make, mushrooms and onions of some kind. So I like to make sure he gets some kind of nutrition. I don't know if it's really considered a vegetable, but, my nephew and I will eat other vegetables. But look at what one mushroom becomes when you slice it up nice and thin. Like I said, I don't know if I need 1 or 2 mushrooms. We like them a lot. If I'm short on cash, I would use 2. If I'm not, then I can use 3. And I never use more. I make big pizzas. I make a big, cookie sheet pan. And you take these mushrooms and you chop them thin and put them on a pizza, homemade pizza. You get a lot of mushrooms for 2 mushrooms. It looks like a lot on a pizza. Okay, so this is only 2. It's not until I get to my gravy part or when I'm starting to cook that I make the final decision. Again, if you don't like mushrooms, substitute. You could do diced carrots. You could do diced celery and onions, or the Trinity as it's called, or mirepoix, I believe in French. It means, basically those 3 things. But there, 2 little mushrooms turned into quite a pile. I don't think I'm going to need the extra for our dinner tonight, so there you go. I just saved myself 20 cents. These 2 little bits are going right in my stock bag. After a week, if I go through, 16 mushrooms in a week, it adds up. They get in there, and then it flavors my broth for more flavor. So there you go. 2 mushrooms. Can you believe how well they slice up? Right, the next part of my meal, I'm going to be making some mashed potatoes. So I have 3 fairly large russet potatoes here. And boy, I'm going to tell you, I am jealous about some of the prices of potatoes in areas that I see. Ours are not terrible. They're $3.47 right now. They've dropped by about $1 a bag. They're $3.47 for 10 pounds, which is about 35 cents a pound. I have just under 1.5 pounds here. I'm hoping to have some leftovers. But if you're hungry, you can always add more gravy to the potatoes and really get filled up here. In addition to that, I'm going to use just a couple tablespoons of milk, if you have it, and a couple tablespoons of sour cream, or you could put butter. If you don't have either, just really well salted potatoes, salt, pepper, and some of the water that comes from the potatoes, or if you have any broth left over, that will make a really nice creamy mashed potato. In addition to that, normally I don't pay for corn. My neighbor, he grows corn, and at the end of the season he lets me come and glean off anything else. But I picked up Once in a while we like a cream corn. My brother really loves cream corn. So for this meal tonight, I picked up a can of cream corn. It's 44 cents at Walmart. So that's going to be part of our meal tonight. And I'm going to get these peeled. I'm going to put them in heavily salted water, and I'm going to get those ready to cook for our meal tonight. Like I said, you could use pasta, you could use rice, potatoes. It all works really good for this kind of meal. All right, let me give you a hint here. Before you peel your potatoes, wash them, scrub them really well. Save your peels in some water for a little while. Add a good amount of salt to that water and let them soak until you're ready to use them. I'm going to show you a bonus snack from these peels that's actually really pretty good. Okay, I made my burgers, my meat mixture, into 6 patties. So 1 pound of meat is going to feed, it makes 6 servings. I made sure it was well chilled, and I want to put it in a greased pan. Normally, if I had company, I would cook all of this, but I was told the guys aren't very hungry tonight, so I'm only going to make 3 of these. And the other 3, luckily for me, is a meal for another time. Those will go into the freezer. And I will have my patties done ahead of time. And you can cook ground beef directly from the freezer. I do it all the time. I also only need half those onions and half the mushrooms now. But I'm probably just going to make a nice strong gravy that I have some leftover roast, and I can use the leftover gravy mix for frying up my roast. So you're going to want to brown these really, really well. Brown meat means you added extra flavor to it. You want to know how to add flavor to your food. Make sure your meat is well browned. So I'm going to do that right now. This is browning. I'm going to add my onions. Onions are flavor, but they're also a filler. Don't forget, if you're making a sauce. So that's half my onions. I think I'm just going to save the other half for another meal. And we're going to let this brown up really well. All right, my meat is well browned, very well browned. I removed it from the pan along with the onions because they're getting a little dark in some spots, and I don't want it to burn. I'm going to add some butter, and then to that, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of flour. Butter and flour, or oil and flour together in equal portions, is called making a roux. And if you cook this and you let it brown a little bit, that adds another layer of flavor. It gets rid of the taste of the flour, and it will not only thicken it, but when you brown it up, it just makes a delicious, delicious gravy. That butter is helping me get all those bits off the bottom of the pan. That's all flavor. If you do not have broth, this is how you get flavor off your pan for your meal. I don't have to add broth. I could just add water now, a little salt and pepper, and it would be so good. All right. So I have my flour cooked up a little bit. To that, I'm going to add my mushrooms real quick. I want those to start cooking. They're going to release some water. Mushrooms are a lot of water in them. Let them cook up a little bit. You may have to turn your heat down a little if it's too hot. My cast iron gets really, really hot, so I'm going to turn mine down till I add the broth just a little bit. I'm going to kind of get my mushrooms started. And I keep it stirring. Now I'm just going to add just a little bit of broth to start. Bring up some more of that good flavor off the bottom. I need more than that. If your brown bits didn't come up before, they should come up now. And this is going to get thick pretty quick, so add some more of my broth. There's mushrooms stirred in there. Get those cooking. Doesn't that look good? Even without broth, look at how beautiful that would be. I'm only adding turkey broth, so all that yummy color came from the meat and the browned flour. Once you put your meat back in here, this is going to thicken a little bit more, so thin it out. Because we're just going to simmer that meat and onions now in the gravy. And if you have leftover gravy, save it. Save it, save it. You can add it to by itself to potatoes. You could add little extra bits of meat. You could add ground beef and put it over noodles or rice or potatoes. And you don't waste a thing. Now, if you have dark pieces in there from when the meat got stuck, you can pick them out if you don't like them, but I don't mind them at all. I'm going to add my onions back. Get those stirred in there. Oh, my potatoes are boiling like crazy back here. Let me turn those down. Those should be done soon. Alright, add my onions back. And now I'm just going to turn this down on a simmer and continue to cook my meat. Don't forget to put the juices back in your plate, in your pan. It's more flavored. Why waste it, right? I like to get it on both sides with the gravy, and I let it go in there and finish cooking. Alright, so I have it on low, on a simmer, and I'm just going to put the lid on and let that cook until my potatoes are done. Let me show you how pretty this is. Isn't that delicious looking? Now, would you feel okay serving that to company? I know I would. If I had some fresh parsley sprinkled on top, man, that would be so nice. But we're going to let this wait for our potato. Okay, I changed my mind on the cream corn because my brother said he's not hungry and that's his favorite. So I just used my home canned corn. And the potatoes and the beef patty with mushroom gravy. I like my corn on top of my potatoes and my gravy on my meat. I know, I'm weird. It would look pretty if I put it on my potatoes, but that's not how I eat my gravy. Paying the prices I do in my area, if I had to buy everything, it would be about 74, 73 cents a serving, something like that. Obviously, I do not buy corn, and my meat's cheaper than the average. So anyway, I don't think it's too bad. It's not as low as some of the meals that people put out, but I think I would feel okay serving this to company. And I would probably switch out the corn for a green vegetable to really make it pretty. You can get a bag of broccoli or beans for $1, and that would easily serve 6 people. So let me know what you think, how I did, and leave me any comments below. Enjoy and have a wonderful day. Right, I said I'd give you a little bonus here. Remember those potato peels I told you to save in a bowl of water? I had mine in the fridge so they're really nice and cold. I'm going to drain these really well and rinse them really well, and I'm going to turn them into a nice crispy snack. So I'm going to drain them, and I'm going to rinse them and then drain them really, really well. And I'll show you the next step after that. All right, this is great to do while the dishwasher's running. Take your drained potato peels, find something to put them into. I like to save, this is a cereal bag, because it's great to marinate things in or to Add oil on your food, seasonings, and then when you're done, you just throw the bag away. So I'm going to put in here, I don't want a lot of oil because there's not a lot of peels there. I'm just going to put in about a teaspoon to a half a tablespoon, and then I'm going to add some salt. You could add chili powder or Parmesan cheese or whatever you guys like and make some. You're making basically potato chips. Mash it up together, get that oil, really spread around on them. That's why I like to use these bags. I don't have to wash. Oh, I lost half the peels. Good thing I scrubbed the sink out really well. Close it up real good. Give it a good shake. You could salt them before or after placing them in the bag. And then I put them on my, doesn't quite fit in my sink, but I wanted to show you without having to move the camera 30 times. Spread the peels out. They've got a little bit of oil on them. You could add more salt if you need it. Like I said, you could sprinkle chili powder, make a spicy chip. Parmesan cheese is really good. Now, these are going in my air fryer, or you could roast them in the oven at like 450 degrees or so, 425, anywhere from 400 to 450, and cook them until they're nice and crispy. Right, about 12 minutes in the air fryer. Look what I have. Listen. Can you hear it? I made myself little chips out of things people normally throw away. They really taste good. Try them sometime. You know, from, let's call it trash to treasure here. This is really good stuff. Give it a try and tell me what you think.